Oh, hello. There it goes. Stupid microphone. How y'all doing? Welcome in, welcome in. What day is it? Thursday, I think. Yeah. So, later on tonight, around 1 o'clock, I have a debate. Dun dun dun. Me and, what's his face? Bumpkin, we're getting into it on Just White's panel one day. And I know, he's like, why do we have a formal debate about this? I'm like, okay, fine. It's about whether or not unions are net positive for modern America. Now, originally my contention was that unions are inherently communist. But somehow, in the crosstalk between Are We Not Men, who's trying to organize this on Justice's behalf, and Bumpkin, it got turned into Are unions a net positive for America? And I'm like, well, wait a minute now. At one point, I think that they were. So I had to limit that to modern America. I think ultimately they're superfluous and an extra layer of bureaucracy on top of a bunch of shit that already takes care of the problems that they were concerned about in the first damn place. But everyone wants to say that Chuck in Tennessee, what's up, man? He says, when I was in EOD meant explosive ordnance detachment. What's disposal these days? I don't know if they changed the name of it or what. But there's a good movie about this. Russell Crowe, I think. Forget the name of it, but he is actually an explosive ordnance disposal technician in the fucking sandbox. Yeah, that's not it. I don't think it is. Yeah, no. I might be thinking of the wrong actor too. That's a good possibility. The Hurt Locker is the one I'm thinking of. What's this guy's name? Fuck, I don't know. Jeremy Renner, I guess? Not real sure. But that's the one. Good movie. That's not an easy job to do. It's you see a lot of fucked up shit. Cause those fucking heathens will put a bomb on anybody. But yeah, it's this guy. Oh, right. He was on those fucking Avengers movies. Those were terrible. Alright, anyway. Yeah, if you want to know what EOD techs do, that is my suggestion to you is go check that out. Because that's a really good movie. It's good shit. That's not what I did when I was in the service. I was a medical laboratory technician. So we stuck people, we drew blood samples for tests. I did blood typing and screening for blood units. All kinds of stuff. We looked at every fluid that comes out of your body and did diagnostic testing on it to determine if there was any sort of pathology, which means a disease. Right? Can I define unions, huh? Well, Octavius, I suppose union would be any sort of third-party organization outside of the ownership of a company or the government that tries to collectively organize workers in a particular workplace. Right? That's a union. Nate says they go boom if they don't do it right. Yeah. Well, there's a suit that they wear, just in case that happens. And it does sometimes. But anyway, yeah, that was one of the things that we actually had to learn while I was in basic, was how to identify IEDs and look for them on the side of the road. They put us through a bunch of practical training situations where IEDs are just scattered all over our camp, and we had to sort of find them like a fucking scavenger hunt. But it's amazing some of the stuff you can make an IED out of. You'd be surprised. Oh, and Octavius is continuing to try to analyze my worldview right now. How's that relative at all to modern America, at large, at small, or in any way? Unions exist, right? There's the United Auto Workers Union. There's the Steel Union, and these places exist within particular industries across America, and and varying degrees of involvement and presence. So that's how it's relevant. Am I anti? Yeah, I'm definitely anti. Unions are not a net positive for America. It's an extra layer of bureaucracy on top of an already well-established legislative framework for, as respecting workers' rights and ability to, live and prosper in society. Now, you can argue that unions are the cause of this, sure, but unions also occurred right around the Industrial Revolution and, the 1910s, 1920s, in between there, when manufacturing at large was a new thing to society in the first place. So there weren't any well-established standards at all. It just so happened that unions was the mechanism of society that sprout up to address the concerns and the problems that arose therein. That's not to say that they wouldn't have been addressed by legislation at some point. And I think that would have been better and healthier for America as a whole if that had happened in that way instead of unions. That aside, what we have left from the labor movement of the early 1900s is this bloated bureaucracy that ends up being a forceful lobbying arm designed to implement progressive and, in my opinion, communistic fucking policies that focus on centralized control of the government over all aspects of life, such as universal health care or environmental restrictions, which oftentimes go completely against the industry that they're supposedly lobbying on behalf of. So there's all kinds of problems with the unions and the bureaucracies that they want to try to create and that they force people to participate in, especially in states that are not right-to-work states where if there's a union present, you have to pay union dues and join the union. You don't have a choice. They will dock your paycheck before you get it. So that's fucked up, especially when you consider the fact that unions basically exist solely for the purpose of lobbying Congress on behalf of what is primarily progressive and communistic policies. So unions serve their purpose. Were they necessary in the first place? I don't think so. I think we would have come to a legislative conclusion, which is very similar to where we're at right now with labor laws. From any reasonable perspective, that would have happened. It was just unions beat Congress to the punch. And there's all kinds of history with unions being tied up with the mob, with criminal syndication, with political action committees, with particularly the Democrat Party and progressive policies at large. So all of this history is just shitting on the legacy of what unions are supposed to be. And liberals will still argue from the point of an emotional appeal that, oh, we're there for workers' rights, man. We don't want those evil corporatists to run the show because they'll make everybody a slave or whatever, right? But when you look at particularly, big enterprises that have waded into a lot of these industries, such as Toyota, okay? There's a Toyota plant down in South Central Kentucky. I can't remember exactly the town that it's in. I think it's Greenville or Greensboro, something like that. It's not Bowling Green. I'm pretty sure it might be in Bowling Green. If it's in Bowling Green, I'm an idiot. That's actually a pretty big town. But okay, anyway, because the Corvette plant is in Bowling Green, so I'm like, that's the one I'm thinking of in Bowling Green. But Toyota might also be making cars there. In any case, not unionized. UAW does not have a presence in the Toyota plant in South Central Kentucky, and that's because their HR division bends over backwards to make sure that people are happy and that the job site is amicable and safe and all of this stuff. And in fact, those people make more money and have more benefits than most people that work at UAW jobs. Right? So there you go. That's an example of the free market answering the state of the society in which they're operating in order to try and, do better, as fucking progressives like to say. So Nate says EOD is from Tucky. Yes, not Pentucky, but Kentucky. That's right. I do collect Hot Wheels. That's something me and my nephews do to just as a hobby. They'll come over and trade me Hot Wheels all the time. It actually changes a lot, but and Nate's got a good point on this too. Unions cause inflationary spirals for the pay scales at the business. Absolutely they do. And a lot of the lobbying and horseshit legislation that they try to bring to the table ends up being a barrier to entry for new innovation, for new businesses to come in and try to offer some competition to the already well-established enterprises that own industrial production across every facet of the United States. So, Kentucky's beautiful. It is beautiful, man. I'm discounting the majority of the pro argument, says Octavius. What's that, Octavius? Help me out. Goodness sakes. I reckon we had enough of that. That's pretty good. Oh, for shit's sake. My freaking speakers are freaking out. I'm not sure why. Yeah, it's OBS. That's weird, man. Yep. I don't know. Fuck it. I don't need the audio anyway. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Boomer moment. Boomer moment, you guys. For some reason, when I stop an audio source in the middle of it playing, my freaking it sounds like it's like you're plugging in a 1/4-inch cable and it hasn't made it all the way in, and so it's like I don't know what the hell is causing that, but it's fucking annoying. I can tell you guys can't hear it though, so I don't know why I can hear it and you can't hear it. It's stupid. It's not supposed to work like that. All right. So what did Octavius say? You need to account for why they are good so you can more effectively debate the negative position. Ah. You think I haven't thought of that? How little you know who I am, sir. This is an article from some commie on fucking Medium that I've been looking at. This is one of several sources that I have here. But let's see. Yes. Here you go. The proof is in the pudding. They make the argument themselves. What I find most inspiring about labor unions is their role in advocating for social progress. Unions have long been at the forefront for campaigns of gender equality. What does that have to do with industrial production, by the way? Or workers' rights? Racial justice, again, really confused about that. And LGBTQ plus rights. What does being queer have to do with anything? In a time when social inequality is still rampant, unions remain a driving force. Right there. And pushing for a fairer, more inclusive society. So, like I say, the proof is in the pudding. That's one of the things that progressives love about unions, and why they advocate for unions is because they are used as a lobbying, leverage point to force progressive policies through Congress. That's really what they want. It's not about workers' rights. It's not about making things better for your local steel guy or anything like that. It's about forcing him to pay into a lobbying political action committee on behalf of progressive communist ideals. Regardless of what you think, you're forced to do it. Mr. Mister says, leftards, democracy equals socialism. Well, democracy doesn't equal socialism. The Democrats are fucking socialist. I'll agree with you on that. What's up, Wobbly? We got Wobbly over on Kick. It's good to see you, man. And Miss April Dawn, the illustrious. How are you doing? Yeah. That's one of the things I've been looking at. I've also been looking at stuff that's been pro for my argument, such as this: a history of everything leftist and unionism. The old left and the reds. What do you know? This guy's name is Michael Watson. He wrote this in March. In summary, it says American labor radicalism has come a long way from Soviet agents in the Congress of Industrial Organizations through the UAW-funded Students for a Democratic Society. What's that sound like? Probably the predecessor to the Democratic Socialist Party of America, right? To today's SEIU purple-shirted demonstrators and red-shirted UAW anti-Hamasniks. This one I can't fucking remember what that means, but derogatory slang term for a Hamas member or supporter. Oh, right. Okay. Well, there you go. As big labor has declined, what independence the labor movement had from the progressive left has diminished to the point, with rare divergences, it effectively has ceased to exist. The causes of the long decline are many, and the causes of big labor's leftism are also many, ranging from financial incentive structures of union officials to the structure of collective bargaining. Today, organized labor is a full member of the Everything Leftist Coalition, not just in economic issues and labor organizing, but also in social and foreign policy. Dun dun dun. Yet again, we find that unions are being leveraged as an element of communist lobbying, right? So I don't know. You guys got any other grand insights? Miss April says, I'm high on Valium and I can't feel my face. Well, I know you celebrated 420. Wait a minute, did you have dental work done? Maybe that's why she has Valium, probably. Yeah, Mr. Mister says 100%. They always want you to argue identity politics is a trap for what they're really doing. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, she says, no, the dentist tortured me. Yeah, right on. They do that. They're sadists. I swear. Every dentist is a sadist. Also, I had this one from the New Republic, the underestimated alliance that could beat back Trumpism. So it's not just in lobbying for, progressive policy and communistic policy in Congress. They also go out and protest and demonstrate and, campaign on behalf of presidential candidates too, or against presidential candidates, as the case may be. This was in February of this year. So far from Capitol Hill, the groundwork for a potent counter to the administration's misrule is already being laid. The backing of most major unions, the Teamsters were a notable exception. Oh, I'm sure we're going to hear about that from Bumpkin. Kamala Harris won a majority of union households in 24, but failed to stop Donald Trump. Union members are still likelier than non-union members to vote Democratic. Oh, you don't say. But Harris's union household support was down by 3 percentage points from Joe Biden's. Right, well, go figure, because Harris was a fucking retard. Trump's was up by 5. Yeah, that's because he went and talked to unions about the shit that they actually care about, rather than trying to go through fucking union leaders and negotiate legislation that they want to pack for. That's why the Teamsters didn't fucking support Kamala Harris. Given Trump's track record, there's no reason to believe that he will reward workers for their support. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. Like Elon Musk, he would gladly fire them all the second they crossed him. Oh my God. Okay. You know what? That's fine. It's obvious. The point of this is simply to demonstrate the political charge behind the quote unquote labor movement and all of the shit that goes along with that. Right. All right. So I agree that an important part of a debate prep is to try to understand the opposing argument, which I have done some research on. However, I think it's also important to understand who it is that you're going up against and when, where, why, and how they can defend whatever it is that they're trying to defend. Right? So I went and I looked and I looked and I looked, and it took me a minute, but I did eventually find a Darth Bumpkin highlight. Which is ironically one particular issue that I think I actually agree with him on. But let's take a look see here. He says defending the Boers against Chaotic Truth with Radical Code. Radical Coder doesn't really say anything. Go figure. But him and Chaotic Truth go back and forth on this a little bit. Yeah. I am a dummy.
Wait, Ryan.
There you go.
No, I mean, I don't know a ton about Jasmine Crockett, so I'm not gonna speak like out of turn, you know. But I'm curious to hear what Bumpkin has to say. Actually,
Go ahead, Bumpkin. You got the floor.
You ain't curious what I got to say. Shut the hell up.
Right, go ahead.
You know exactly what I'm gonna say. Shut up.
the N-word.
No, I only say that.
I don't think Bumpkin has ever even used the N-word.
Yes, I have. There are.
You have?
Yes, Fatty booted me off the show for using it on accident.
Really?
On
And
accident.
on Fight
so-
Club,
oh
someone
my
also
God.
gave me $500 to call Sharon the N-word, which I did.
Yeah, you should have. Hello, 500. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have done it in the middle of Harlem as a white person. $500. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Literally cashed out me $500. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you got to haul ass out. But go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, so Octavius says the modern face of it is bad. However, the emotional attack of the pro is how it was founded. Kids losing arms and machines, people being abused in bad conditions, how mobilization affected laws. Yeah, I know that. That's why, again, I specifically asked for the debate to be focused, we'll say, on modern America rather than when it came about. And like I said, I've already addressed this. I agree that, you know, shit had to happen. Something had to happen. It was a brand new thing. It was a weird thing when unions came about, when manufacturing came about specifically. And unions arose out of that because there weren't any standards in place in the first place. No one had ever seen production on this scale before to make any kind of determination about what was reasonable and what was not. So a lot of fucked up shit happened, for sure. Like I say, I think that would have been addressed by legislation if not for unions coming up and doing the deed for us. But it just so happened that unions fulfilled that role in society, and now that role is long since past its, you know, its necessity. So well, good, Octavius. I'm glad you're listening. Thank you for reiterating my argument to me. But just as I said, as important as understanding the other side of the debate is to understand who's representing the other side of the debate. So,
I mean, I read you the UN definition of genocide yesterday. I don't know if we have to keep playing this game chaotic.
So okay, if you don't know, the Boers is a derogatory term for white farmers in Africa, I think. It doesn't really matter which country you're talking about, but particularly Bumpkin has brought this argument up as it relates to South Africa specifically. So
I don't know why we have to keep playing this game.
and there's a political party in South Africa that is, you know, singing the song that chants "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer, kill the Boer, kill the farmer." Yada yada yada. Bumpkin's point is that this is a clear call to violence and would not be considered free speech in the United States. Chaotic Truth is the exact opposite of that. That's just free speech. That's just a political party being inflammatory. It's not really that big of a deal. So
You have proof? Because I have proof, sir. I have actual people who called in from South Africa and the continent itself.
I'm sorry, I thought this was about white genocide.
I'm sorry, sir. Do you have any proof of the white genocide in South Africa? Do you have any?
I
do you
have-
any farmers
They'll get there
calling
anyway.
in right now. Because I have actual Africans that have called in.
Yeah. I have a bunch of white crosses.
And I can make an AI.
the video.
I can tell AI to make some white crosses in the film. I mean,
yeah, like that's such a shitty argument. You know, that's such a shitty argument.
It's not. It was not AI.
Talking about fake news when he gets news about this.
You think
all of a sudden you don't hear? Oh, that's fake news. How come this isn't fake news?
You think this just?
Also, I want y'all to know. Apparently, some shit happened on CT's channel, and he got fucking demonetized, which I think is fucked up. Normally, he's a base son bitch, and I really agree with a lot of what he has to say. He's good takes. Sometimes you get into this race shit, and then there's a plain bias there, which is okay. I guess that's to be expected. But I do like CT. Good dude. Go support his channel if you haven't yet. So it's Chaotic Truth Live. I'll see if I can drum up a link.
Started, right? You think this hasn't been going on for 30 plus years?
Well, I mean, 30 years ago, the South Africans were under apartheid. So I mean, kind of, if you were a farmer and you got what was coming to you.
No, because this entire situation stems from Zimbabwe. Like, why are you denying this?
Why does this stem from Zimbabwe? What are you talking about?
Because it was a similar situation, right? It was a similar
with
situation.
Mugabe. Yeah, Mugabe openly he used the government to do it. Mugabe ordered his troops to take land. The South African president hasn't done that. Zuma didn't do it when he was in office, and Mandela didn't do it, and whoever the president after Mandela was didn't do it. So, what are you talking about?
But you don't need to order. That you don't need to order when people are just openly doing it. You don't need to order.
Well, let's look at Rwanda. Let's look at Rwanda. The government gave out orders. The government gave out commands for people to do stuff. Is the South African government giving out commands for civilians to kill white farmers?
A political party is.
It's not the same thing, right?
Okay. Is that political party? Does that political party control the government?
Does that political party control?
That's like, for example, if the Green Party, what's her name, Jill Stein. If Jill Stein was dancing and we say the same thing of the Green Party if Jill Stein did it and one of these crazy fanatics went out
if there was a political party in the United States that was actively openly advocating that you should go to J-owned businesses and end their existence, right?
You would arrest the person that said it.
Right. Would you not? Right. Would you not arrest the person that said it? Why aren't these people arrested in South Africa?
All right, so that's a good point that Bumpkin brings up there, but I think he misses a very key fact, which is that this political party is overwhelmingly popular in South Africa. It's not like the Green Party is in America. That's just completely feckless and in name only a participant in our legislative system. This party has wide-ranging support in South Africa. That's one of the things I would have brought up. He did not. Now, I could be wrong, but I think they did win the last run for prime minister or whatever. Pretty sure. Like I said, I might be wrong about that. I don't know. But let's say yeah, I know that. Where's this killable or chat? Sure. We can try that, but that's probably not gonna work. Yeah. Yeah. It says a South African political party. I want to know what the name of the party is. Economic Freedom Fighters. That's it. I knew it was something, some kind of fucking platitude that sounded vaguely palatable, but they're fucking communists. Go figure. The Economic Freedom Fighters is a South African communist and black nationalist political party. It was founded by expelled former African National Congress Youth League president Julius Malema and his allies in 2013. It's currently the fourth largest party in the National Assembly. So that means they're the fourth largest party in Congress, in Parliament, in South Africa. So that's significant when you consider how many parties there are. So in the very least, they're more significant than the fucking Green Party is. That's for damn sure. In any case, they're communists. Who would have thought? Now, the shit in Zimbabwe that they're talking about, the president didn't actually send in the troops to do that, but the troops started taking shit over anyway. Then they modified the constitution that land could be expropriated by the government without compensation. And then they sort of just let the army go, and they started taking over people's farms. Ironically, shortly thereafter, Zimbabwe's economy completely fucking collapsed. Turns out agriculture was a big part of what was holding them up, and whoever they gave those farms to did not know what the fuck they were doing. So, whole thing collapsed, turned into a big damn disaster for Zimbabwe, and now they've ended up backpedaling and started paying out compensation to people who have been expropriated by the government. So, Alley Cat says, "Free South Africa, you dumb son of a bitch."
Because we don't know exactly.
But again, I think that was poorly explored on Bumpkin's part. Maybe because he didn't have the facts offhand. It seems like this was an impromptu kind of encounter sort of thing. So I'm sure if he had a chance to look it up, he probably would have had some of this on hand. But
the particulars of what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on for a second. Gary's with the $5 super chat. White on white, Gen S don't matter. CT. That's why Israel is getting
Israeli situation. Gar, love you to death, buddy, but that doesn't hold up because those two groups do not look like each other whatsoever when it comes to Israelis.
Bumpkin, did Malema give out a command to a specific person and tell them to do something? Singing a song is one thing, and truth be told, it sounds like a revolutionary song, in my opinion. But
it's like it is a communist revolutionary fucking call to disrupt society, upset the norms, and bring in the revolution. That's really what it's about. Which means it is an actionable fucking threat. That's why that makes it 10 times worse.
A direct command to someone with the promise of money or land or something. Did he say, if you go delete this person, how do you arrest Malema? Can the current president right now really arrest Malema?
Should. Yes.
I don't know anything about South Africa.
For saying that you should kill the boar, yes, absolutely. Because that is
okay. So basically,
demographic of people. Yes,
it sounds like Malema is exercising their freedom of speech.
Holy shit!
I'm just saying.
Holy fuck.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead, Bumpkin. Go ahead. You got the floor, buddy. Go ahead.
You're right. No, let's do freedom of speech. Appaloosa.
Hold on for a second. Let me read this real quick. VV with the $5 super chat. If I was president, I would have this country looking like Germany back in 1938. Get the likes up, guys. Share the video. All right, go ahead, guys. Go ahead, Bumpkin.
I'm starting to learn that might be the only route. Not gonna lie,
Bumpkin, because we're talking about this chant. Is this or Chaotic Truth? Are you saying this chant sounded like a song, or
it sounded to me as a black person who understands the call and response, and it sounded like, listen, blacks went through apartheid. We went through so many acts of violence and yada yada yada.
In other words, it's justifiable. It's justifiable call to violence, which it is not. It's not. The way you fix that is through legislation. It's through, appropriate fucking governmental measures, not by going to white farmers' houses and, murdering them in their homes, which is literally what the guy is saying to do.
Kill the boar means fight the oppressor.
Right. It's communist. Oppressor versus oppressed. It always boils down to that basic fucking principle. Whoever's doing well needs to not, so that the people who are not doing well can, which is bullshit. It's bullshit.
wasn't literally meant to.
It's always
say,
been
go out
bullshit.
there and
Always
go
turns out to be
slit
bullshit.
Some white man's throat on his farm. And
Exactly, Octavius. Class fucking warfare.
I don't. Like, for example, Bumpkin, it's like the equivalent of "We Shall Overcome," right? You know, the nigga.
Oh.
No, hold on, hear me
No,
out.
no, CT. No, it is not. That's a freaking hymn. That's about living in unity and finding some means to peace. That is the exact opposite of what these fucking assholes are saying.
Like, I guess you could interpret that as overcome the white man, right?
Do you hold that same opinion for the Iron Guard?
No.
See, this is
Iron Guard in World War II when they had the death.
This is sort of fucking derailing the conversation, in my opinion. The Iron Guard, the Romanian Iron Guard in World War II has nothing to do with what we're fucking talking about. You're just trying to get him to agree that radical language isn't really productive. But
no.
The Romanian Iron Guard in World War II when they had the Death March for Jays.
Oh my god! Why does everything go back to the Jays?
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, to this point, sort of to this point, at least, do you bring the same energy when was Fuentes at like CPAC or something a couple of years ago saying that we need to end Jewry? And that seems like a pretty a similar sentiment,
good.
No, it's not.
It's not at all. Not even.
Hang tight for me, guys in the back, real quick. Hang tight for me, guys in the back.
Yeah. Because he didn't say. He didn't say
the word kill. How do you end Jewry?
I believe you
like a
could
video
argue.
game.
I believe you could argue that
this was a little fucked up.
That the term Jewry, since we're openly using that now, right,
I'm quoting Fuentes to be clear.
Is a set values, right? Like, let's say usury, right? Was probably what he was referring to, right? Or so. CPAC, right? You can make the argument that he was talking about these positions of power, right? You got to end these positions of power. Very easy to make that argument, right? But when you say kill the Boer, right? Specifically, kill the Boer, is the Boer not a specific demographic of people within South Africa?
Are Jews not a specific demographic? Jewry. But is like you're very,
Boers.
very charitable to Nick's sentiment here, and very.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time being able to fucking defend Nick Fuentes, man. I really would. I wouldn't even try.
Uncharitable to the South African champ.
So cheers to him for that, I guess.
Yeah, because it's legitimately on a cultural basis, as in a specific group of people.
Bumpkin.
It's logically sound.
Bumpkin.
I just feel like
first of all, South Africa, the predominant amount of criminal acts are against other blacks by blacks. I will admit that, but I have the stats, since everybody loves stats and data. Per
Show
year,
me your study,
about 40
bro.
farmers that are deleted. And it could be Indians deleting the farmers. It could be whites deleting other whites. I have no idea, right?
But he has the stats. Here's the thing. I tried to look into this too. I was watching this earlier. And yeah, this is really more between Bumpkin and Chaotic Truth. So I'm not going to criticize him for being a moderator. He's not trying to moderate. He's trying to argue the point. I would, but South Africa does not record, it does not delineate murders by race. That's why you don't have that information. It's because it's simply not available. I did find a CBS article that was saying that the number of white farmers in South Africa has actually decreased by 30% over 15 years. So that's at least evidence that they're fleeing for their fucking lives. Whether you can attribute that to individual murder statistics or not is, I don't know, irrelevant to the impact on the industry so.
Unlikely as blacks deleting the whites. But anyway, Bumpkin.
Actually, fun fact, the Indians stood with white South Africans on several occasions.
The Indians do what?
The Indians actually stood with the white South Africans on several occasions. Funny enough.
Idea.
That's not the point.
But Bumpkin, all I'm saying is, if a black South African who's a criminal,
here's another thing too. What are we going to do? What's up, Abe? It's good to see you, man. But another thing is there's about 40,000 white farmers in South Africa, and there's about 65 million people that live in the country. You're talking about an insanely small demographic of individuals. In the United States, this would be considered a protected class, especially because of the cultural outrage over their very existence in the first fucking place. So, yeah, kill the Boer is just as bad as saying kill the Jews, right? That's what Bumpkin is trying to get at, and it's 100% fucking correct. Nobody would stand for that. Now, would that person be arrested? They'd probably be investigated. They'd probably be, have their freaking assholes spread open by the federal government to try to figure out if there's any sort of criminality or terroristic, relationships there. But I don't know if they'd be arrested or not. It's still, culturally unacceptable in the United States for that kind of shit to go on. For a very good reason. Hate and violence in politics has no purpose when you're a liberty-loving, constitutional republic. But in a communistic regime, there has to be unrest. There must be. And to my mind, that's the biggest problem about the EFF. They're radical fucking revolutionary communists. And they hold positions of power within the South African parliament. And this is their political messaging. Kill the Boer. This is all extremely problematic shit.
He deletes a farmer, supposedly. Does he automatically take over the land like it's ancient times? Oh, bah, now it's my land now. I conquered you. Or Bumpkin, do you...
Oh,
do you
Abe, you're fine, man.
South Africa has all
I'm paying
types of
attention.
laws, land rights.
If you want to go live or do something else, man, that's cool.
Work to procure the land. What do you think happens when a white South African is killed?
What would happen? What would happen in the U.S. if someone's entire line legacy?
The debate's not until like 1 o'clock in the morning, so that's probably when I'll need somebody to be hanging out. But
he was wiped out, and the land just sits there.
It depends, man. I have no idea. No, I mean,
land goes to the state.
It goes to the state,
or they sell it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Bumpkin, can you show videos of entire bloodlines deleted in South Africa?
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay.
Well, Octavia says in recent history, people who state death to ICE don't appear to be investigated or punished. Graffiti artists, people with signs, etc. So far, this ICE numbers compared to the population of the United States. ICE is an enforcement arm of the federal government. You are more than justified to criticize ICE. In fact, that is specifically what the First Amendment guarantees, is that you can criticize the federal government for anything using any language you wish. So that's a very easy case to uphold in court if the DOJ was going to try to prosecute it. But that's almost exactly what the First Amendment is for. It's for criticizing the federal government.
Videos? Yeah. Can you share whatever information you have? Can you share it, or do you have just only one story?
The thing is, as far as these, Trantifa LARPers are concerned, they don't actually kill ICE officers, right? They injure them in a lot of cases. In which case they usually get arrested for that. But Achilles says, EOD, how's it going? It's going pretty good, man.
No.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay, go ahead, Ryan. You got the floor, buddy.
All right, I don't care what Ryan has to say. Bumpkin eventually comes back after 5 or 10 minutes or so with this clip of the EFF president, the president of the party, singing the song. So that'll be the nice little capstone on his argument there.
Yeah, let's do this.
I don't believe that this woman behind him is a suicide bomber. To me, it's just an uplifting song.
An uplifting
and they're all
song.
beat too,
Shoot to kill.
Shoot to kill. Yeah. See, now hold on for a second. Now,
hold on for a second. Let me justify this. Let me justify this. He's not saying shoot to kill. Okay, he's saying that the oppressed black farmer in South Africa needs to rise up and overcome the white farmer who actually owns the property, and it's been in his family for 150 years. But whatever.
You can interpret that as something else. I mean, that's kind of direct, but I don't think that he literally means shoot to. What do you think he means by that?
What the fuck else could he possibly mean? What are you talking about? Oh man. Fucking revolutionary communists. These guys are bending over backwards for revolutionary communists.
I don't know enough
it's
about
just
the
laughable to me.
specific political party. Maybe I'm open to the possibility that he does, mean something more aggressive. But I'm also open to the opposite. I'm open to it being. I just don't know enough. I don't want to. The other.
John Dunning with the $5 super chat. CT, I remember we talked about what would a world full of idle minds be like. Our minds can be weaponized and be a dangerous thing, and you would be correct. Here we go.
Come on, son. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
Now, there was that brief interruption there where CT tried to come in and justify what was being said, but remember what was being said immediately prior to this. Shoot to kill. Kill the Boer. Kill the farmer. Shoot to kill. Yeah.
Well, hear me out. Wait a minute.
And there's no music to this. This is just, it's just a revolutionary chant. That's all it is. It's literally calling for people to rise up in revolution and to murder their neighbors. I could think of nothing more hedonistic.
Well, hear me out. Wait a minute. Now, hold on for a second.
Brother, he is making the gun sound.
I know, but we had songs like in the 80s, like fight, fuck the police.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
It's like entertainment, Bumpkin. It's all entertainment. It's not.
What the Ice-T song called "Cop Killer" was actually a lot worse than "Fuck the Police," but I could accept "Fuck the Police" as a protest song. Cop Killer is a little different.
Real, Bumpkin. I'm pretty sure if you would have been in that stadium, nothing would have happened to you.
I would have been dead.
No, you would have been dead. Murder is a crime in South Africa. You wouldn't have been dead. Buddy.
I would have been dead.
Somebody probably would have pushed you, but I don't think.
Please, they would have trampled his ass. Oh shit! All right. So I think what we can reasonably say is that off the cuff, Pumpkin misses a lot of interesting points that he could have made, but it does make the argument compelling, right? Like if it's bad in the case of white supremacists, why isn't it bad in the case of these folks? It was one of the arguments he was trying to make when he brought up the fucking Romanian Iron Guard or whatever. And yeah, he suggested that people would be arrested for this type of speech. I think in a political sense, like I say, we're talking about ICE. ICE being an enforcement arm of the federal government makes not the same. It's not an apples to apples comparison to people who are participatory in an economic system that have nothing to do with the government, which is what the Boers are. They're farmers. They own the agricultural industry in South Africa, which I would venture a guess is probably a big part of their export, and it would be incredibly stupid for them to do what Zimbabwe did and run into the same damn fucking problems. But yeah, I don't know, Octavius. I don't pretend to know the man's mind. I think, like I say, I think there's a certain amount of bias there simply because he's black, they're black. He feels some sort of camaraderie with trying to overcome systemic racism. Like I can understand that. I mean, I can't put myself in those shoes exactly, but I can understand where he's coming from with that. Now, maybe Chaotic Truth doesn't know who the EFF is. Maybe he doesn't realize that they are, in fact, revolutionary communists, and maybe that would change his opinion a little bit if he did. But that's what they are. And that's, again, I think that's the most alarming thing about the group, is the fact that, I don't want a red wave starting in South Africa and sweeping north, especially if it gets all the way up to Libya. Libya's fucked up enough as it is. Anyway, enough of that. Alley Cat says, yeah, they literally mean to fuck the police. Like I said, that's just a generalized anti-police song. I don't think that's really all that bad. Especially when you consider that Cop Killer was literally calling for a police officer to be murdered. That's a different thing. That's all I meant to point out. I'm not even a fan of this type of music. I think it's terrible. But I appreciate hip hop, but I don't appreciate gangster rap because those are two different things. Like, if we're talking about the same era where Ice-T was big and NWA was big, I liked A Tribe Called Quest. Like, that's a lot better. Much more cleaner kind of fucking shit coming out of their mouths about how to be a good man and trying to survive in the fucking ghetto and shit like that. That's understandable. But shit where you're like going around killing police officers and fucking hoes. And, yeah, Dr. Dre put out one. So I just killed a man. Here was something you can't understand. Yeah. That kind of shit's not, I don't like that. Like, I used to listen to Slayer and shit. They talked about all kinds of fucked up stuff, but it was so fucked up, it was clearly fantastical. These guys are like describing real life shit. It's a little different. Like, I don't know, like, I like Snoop Dogg, like Gin and Juice, that was a cool one. It's like about like having a party in the park and everybody bringing their lowriders. Oh shit. Friday was a good movie. I like that. The first one. That was hilarious. Anyway, what am I doing here? I have black friends, I swear. Let's look at some current events. And I'll wrap the stream up and we'll move on to more interesting things. But this was interesting to me. Teens face hate crime charges for cutting up an LGBTQ pride flags on a pride crosswalk in Atlanta. So what alarms me about this is there'll be outrage over this specific flag because it supposedly represents a protected class in America, but people burning the American flag, you know, nothing for it. Or people even displaying a Confederate flag is considered to be a fucking hate crime. You know what I mean? Like if I took a Tennessee battle flag, which is the stars and bars, right? And I planted that in some black dude's front lawn, I could be arrested and prosecuted for a hate crime. That is a literal thing. Just putting that there. Just putting it there. And not even, you know, assaulting or stealing anything or vandalizing anything. Just that would be considered a fucking hate crime in some states. That shit's ridiculous. There was a Supreme Court ruling. Yeah, what was it? Fucking Joe Cool brought this up to me about fighting words one night on Sarah Tomato's panel. And there was a Supreme Court ruling back in the early 90s where kids had taken like some scrap wood and fashioned a cross, planted it in a black guy's front yard and lit it on fire. And that was considered a fucking hate crime because of quote unquote fighting words. These types of statutes that sort of open the door for legislation against people over speech, what would ultimately amount to speech, which is kind of fucked up. It really is. I mean, that's something that is, you know, you should be prosecuted for other things, like arson, vandalism, this type of shit. That's what you're guilty of. But to suggest that the government can get in your mind and try to understand absolutely what your intent is, or try to govern that, to govern your intent, is really fucked up. We're getting into, you know, Minority Report fucking pre-crime territory with some of the legislation that's coming out with that. Which is why this bothers me. Right? If there's nothing wrong with me lighting an American flag on fire or tearing up a Confederate flag to protest racism, right? Then there should be nothing wrong with these kids cutting up a pride flag. Again, it amounts to littering because they left the remains of the flag, you know, on the public street, which can be fined. It's pretty hefty in my state. $500 you can be fined for littering. So that's enough to, teach somebody a lesson. Don't fucking do that shit. But no, we have to turn it into a hate crime and try to throw these kids in prison for fucking 10 years. It's ridiculous.
A couple of teens who were up to no good started making trouble in an Atlanta neighborhood when they took pride flags off a building, started doing wheelies around on their scooters, and tearing up the flags. They were cutting them up. They're now facing hate crime charges. And this is more than just a one-off. We've already seen stories where if you drive your truck...
What's up, Arwin? Man? Good to see you, man.
And it leaves a mark, they're going to accuse you of a hate crime. And what we're witnessing with this story and many others is the politification of law, the entrenchment of communist ideology. Now, it's not necessarily a one-for-one with communism. We may say it's like that because it's in the same parent tree, but obviously there's a distinction between wokeness and communism, despite the fact we might argue that wokeness is an umbrella above communism.
You got that backwards, Tim. Communism is an umbrella over wokeness. But Octavia says, death to ICE and death to the Boer being different are the same logic as tearing up a U.S. flag versus tearing up a queer flag. Both should be bad in both cases, but aren't due to reasons. No, I don't think... Again, death to ICE is a call against law enforcement, and it's a federal arm of law enforcement. And again, the First Amendment is specifically there to allow you to criticize in any language, you see fit, especially offensive language, the federal government. The Supreme Court has ruled on this before, too. I can't remember the case off the top of my head, but ICE is not farmers, is what I'm trying to tell you. So it's a better equivocation to say that it's like death to the Jays. That's a better comparison, right? Or saying anti-Semitic things in general, right? That result in a call to action, that results in violence on a Jewish person's life, liberty, or livelihood, right? But K2 says unions are good. Trump labor board going after Amazon. Oh shit. Well, I was just talking about it really depends on the business. Amazon's Amazon's a little questionable sometimes. I'll give you that. I've heard some fucked up stuff, but you know what? People still agree to work there. So, all right. Anyway, here we go.
Or that they're deeply related. My point is this: they're not saying we are putting protection for communism in law. They're using a circuitous method by which they are. So with this story, what you basically have is a couple of teens who, admittedly, look, don't steal other people's stuff, don't vandalize. But the fact that they're facing such serious charges for what otherwise, in almost all circumstances, would be brushed off as a teen crime.
I genuinely agree with that, Octavius, but like I said, that's too easy of a case to defend for the DOJ to try to take it up. They're not going to. They're not going to go after people who say death to ICE. They're just not. Because the First Amendment is, again, unequivocally there to allow people to criticize the federal government. Now, if it was death to Jays, it'd be a different thing. They probably would go after those people, right? Which the anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, pro-Iranian protests are getting pretty damn close to that. But because it's a, like I say, if you're not talking about an enforcement arm of the government, it becomes a very, you're talking about a select class of people, a group of people, or a race of people. Very different things. So,
with a slap on the wrist, these kids are facing real prison. Now we take a look at New York City, and you've got the election of Zohran Mamdani. And this guy has pledged to create an office of the LGBTQ and increase anti-hate policing 800%. I'll tell you what they're really saying. The Communist Party will be entrenched in government, and if you swear allegiance to the ideology, you will get political power. This is how all communism works. Example, if you steal an American flag and burn it, you will not get in trouble. You won't. They're going to say, what are you talking about? The flag cost you $20. So they burned a flag. What's the big deal? You steal a pride flag and burn it, they'll threaten to put you in prison for years. In New York, they're going to create an office in the government. And what does it mean to be LGBTQIA, right? Now, obviously, the first LGB means something, but the rest of it could be literally anything. In fact, we literally had a guy come on Timcast IRL who was like a 35-year-old, 6-foot-tall white man who was like, actually, I'm queer too. It's just saying, I pledge myself to this ideology. You assert publicly. It is conversion. They don't care if you believe it. They don't care if it's true. They lay you down. They put you on your knees and say, renounce your God. And I mean that figuratively. And if you do, you can get political power. Now, New York, with the 800% increase in law enforcement against hate, you know exactly what that will mean. Now, this guy Zoran said, oh, because of Jewish people who were attacked. That's not what it's about. That's an excuse. Targeting the right because the right has called them out on their hypocrisy. He's plugging that gap saying, you are correct. And now he's going to use it as a justification to police people who oppose their ideology. Here's the story from the Post Millennial. Teens face hate crime charges for cutting up LGBTQ pride flags on Pride Crosswalk in Atlanta. Witnesses claimed to have observed 6 men stealing pride flags, hanging in front of the bar, and using knives to cut them. I will be the first to say, and I always do, the issue, in my opinion, is not that, actually, I'll put it this way. Don't steal stuff. I'll just leave it at that. These kids deserve some kind of punishment. You stole someone else's stuff, okay? But hold on there a minute. Like I said, the cops...
Yeah, exactly. There's already crimes being committed there. There's already things that they can be criminally prosecuted for, such as theft of property, vandalism, littering, yada, yada, yada. Go to it. Go ahead. Hit them for that. But to try to turn this into something that it's not, you know... Additional bureaucracy infringing upon our fucking right to speak. Brandon says, hey, UD, TLDR on unions? Nope. I'm with you on that. I am. I was just talking about, you know, certain industry leaders have actually come into long unionized industries and, you know, installed HR divisions that bend over backwards in order to make people happy and to create an amicable work environment, such as Toyota. There's not a Toyota plant in the country that's unionized unless it absolutely has to be. And that's because they like to take care of people and they want their workplaces to be known to be, you know, amicable and desirable. And that means people will compete in order to get in on the ground floor and actually work for Toyota. So that in the long run, if an enterprise is capable of doing that, it is immensely beneficial to them because they get the cream of the crop when it comes to their workers. So, and they get to pick and choose. Hey, we got 45 candidates lined up for this one spot on the line that we need to fill. Let's figure out exactly which one is the best one and the most reliable and the hardest working and put them in that spot. So it does benefit companies in the long run to be amicable to their workforce. Unions are just completely superfluous at this point.
Up and say how much the flag cost.
It's an extra layer of bureaucracy that, again, turns into a lobbying arm for progressive and communist fucking policies.
Bucks. That's typically how things go. You destroy someone's stuff, and they're going to be like, depending on the scale of the cost. Now these pride flags, $20. Let's be fair. Let's say 100. Maybe they're custom ordered. Whatever. Really? $100 in damage? What?
100%, Octavius. Crony capitalism favors bribes, backroom deals, makes everything worse. 100% it does.
Cult, they will crush you. They'll call you a suppressive person, perhaps. Atlanta police have arrested 4 teens early Tuesday morning who have been accused of defacing pride flags outside a popular LGBTQ bar in Midtown. Authorities of the defendants may face hate crime charges, which could result in penalties, including jail time. 2 suspects remain at large. According to the Atlanta Police Department, officers responded to a...
Now, could you imagine the outrage? The absolute fucking outrage. Of people, you know, yeah, of these trans Tifa people who burn flags on the street going to jail for a year. They'd be crying to the fucking ceiling, to the rafters. My free speech, but my free speech. These same fucking people are the ones pushing for these kids to end up 10 years in jail for burning a damn queer flag. It's completely fucked, man. The hypocrisy is unbelievable sometimes.
Reports of vandalism at 1:40 a.m. after witnesses claimed to have observed 6 men, despite the fact that several of them are minors, stealing pride flags hanging in front of the bar and using knives to cut into them. The teens were also seen performing motorized scooter stunts on the notable rainbow-colored crosswalks at the intersection of Piedmont Avenue and 10th Street. So looks like we got video, indeed.
Yeah, and we've already seen where, what was it, in Chicago or DC, I think, they painted pride and big bold letters on the street, and some guy came through with his pickup truck and did a burnout on it. They arrested that guy. They tried to fucking arrest him and charge him with a fucking hate crime. These people are unhinged. It is the economic freedom fighters party in the United States at this point. Democrats are absolutely bought and paid for by the DSA. It's unreal. Bandit says that's my professional opinion, not a personal one. Unions are a business, and if you're a union, you can't speak for yourself to better yourself, and once you oversee another person, you can't be in the union. Well, that's fucked up. Abe says it's truly sad what our country's coming to. I hear you, man. That's why, we need to espouse constitutional conservatism till we're blue in the face. That's the only thing that's gonna persist the country amidst this level of opposition and this type of opposition. I mean, these people are just mindless. They don't even know what it is that they're fighting for, which is ultimately the end of the country. In my opinion, that's what they want. The point of the revolution is the revolution, not the peacetime that comes after the revolution. Because guess what? That's living hell on earth. Civilization has proved that time and time again. Every single time communists get in power anywhere in the world, it turns into a fucking nightmare. Every single time.
While contacting authorities, a 911 caller said they're in the middle of the street popping
about to be New York
flags. The 6 teens fled on scooters when officers arrived on scene. Shortly after, 4 of them were apprehended, while 2 teens remain at large. Surveillance video released by APD shows the group on scooters at the rainbow-colored crosswalk with pride flags in hand. We get it. We watched the footage. They say that during a press conference, APD Sergeant Brandon Hayes stated the department takes the community very seriously, and we want to make sure residents feel safe. Detectives said the teens traveled to Midtown Atlanta with the intent of conducting vandalism. Georgia enacted a hate crime statute in 2020, allowing judges to apply additional penalties if a crime is proven to be motivated by bias against a victim's race, religion, national origin, orientation, or other traits. A misdemeanor offense carries an additional 6 to 12 months in prison and a fine up to $5,000, whereas felonies can result in 2 to 12 years. Well, here's our good friend Zoran, who's in the press, and he's got on his website LGBTQIA protections. But what is that really? He says, the Mamdani administration will protect LGBTQIA New Yorkers by expanding and protecting gender-affirming care citywide, making NYC.
So this is an interesting development in New York. You haven't heard about this. This guy won the Democrat primary in the New York mayoral race, I think. And it's already assumed he's going to be the mayor, simply because he won the Democratic primary. I think the Republicans are going to run Eric Adams. I'm not even sure. But, yeah. Dude is a devout socialist, devout communist, has some very, very, very communist ideals that are going to absolutely bankrupt New York City, I'm afraid. We'll see what happens. But remember that hellhole I was talking about? That Stalin and Mao and every communist dictator in the fucking world has always done to their people? Venezuela now? Yeah, it's going to happen in New York. We're about to see it happen in New York.
A sanctuary for LGBTQIA and creating the Office of LGBTQIA Affairs. Now, what is that office? That basically states, call it whatever you want. They're using civil rights for protected groups as their means to create an ideological office within the government. And so it begins. Now, the other day, I said, good, I'm glad he wins. New Yorkers deserve this. But you know what? You know, Mike Cernovich made a great point. It can always get infinitely worse. And, you know, after thinking about it, I have reconsidered my opinion on this, despite the fact it's only been a few hours, just from some light reading. My concern is, and this was pointed out on the show, when communists take over, they never, because they're psychotic, they will never accept responsibility for their bad decisions. They will keep making bad decisions, burn everything to the ground, and Venezuela is a really great example. When you go 100%. To a socialist and you say, Venezuela is a great example of why you should not embrace socialism, because they used to be the wealthiest country in South America, now it's miserably poor and some of the highest murder rates in the world, if not the highest. Not per capita, though, but the highest murder rates in Caracas. And the response they'll give you is, actually, that's the fault of the CIA interfering intentionally in their government to make them poor. You know, I've been kind
of fucking blue and on horseshit is that?
I can tell you exactly what's going on. I went to a cell phone store to get a cell phone, and you know, in the United States, I walk into a T-Mobile, and I go, I want that phone, and they go, okay. They say, I'll be right back. They go in the back, they walk out the phone, put it on the table, and they start filling out paperwork. Yeah, I know it's kind of annoying to fill out all the forms and sign it. And they hand you the phone, swipe your credit card, good to go. Not in Venezuela. When I was there, admittedly, this was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. You go to the cell phone store, and first you have a person, and you tell them what you want. And you say, I want to buy a cell phone with this plan. And my guy, of course, was translating for me. And say, okay, you need to go to you need to go to acquisitions. So I walk upstairs, and there's a guy sitting at a counter with a magazine, and he says, which phone do you want? And you go through it, and then you say, I think that one will do. Go to say, okay, let me write. He writes you up a ticket. Hands me a ticket. He says, okay, now you need to go to warehousing. And then I go, okay, I walk to the next guy, and I say, here's my ticket. And then he says, okay, I'll be right back. And
just layer upon layer upon layer of bureaucracy. It's fucking ridiculous. Mr. says there. Mr. If you posted a link, I can't see it, brother. YouTube will automatically filter that crap out. Even though I have explicitly allowed links in the chat, it will still not post a link. I don't know why.
And he comes out with the phone and says, here's the phone. We're going to bring this down so you can buy it on your way out. But do you need a plan? Yes? Okay. You're going to need to go to acquisitions for plans. Walk to the next person. What kind of plan are you looking for? I want this one. Okay, now go to the next person. This person then gets you a SIM card. Then you go to the next person. This person packages and bags it, hands you the bag, and says, now you can go to checkout. No joke. There was like 7 or 8 people I had to talk to. Why? Because the government mandated the creation of jobs. They said, we need jobs in this country, so just make jobs. That way, we can distribute wealth. So jobs that don't need to exist are made to exist. That's why they're poor.
Yep, 100% right there. That's about all I wanted to get out of Tim Pool. But I think that's exactly what fucking unions do. I really do. They create bureaucracy where bureaucracy shouldn't exist. They erect barriers to entry into whatever industry that they're part of, and they advocate for legislation which ultimately has nothing to do with whatever industry they're working in, or influences culture and politics in a particular way that doesn't give people within the workforce a voice. And they don't have, you know, your lowly lineman doesn't have any fucking say over what the union is actually out there lobbying for. So it's very much centralized horseshit. They very much argue for progressive and communistic policies. Unions are communists, man. I'm fucking telling you. I am telling you. And it's not good. It's not good for the economy, and it's not good for innovation. It's not good for adaptability. They're all things that are extremely important when we're going up against, you know, like the slave labor in China and the piss poor pay rates out of Mexico. But all right, here we go.
3 sources tell CNN that according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment, the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program.
This is the latest bullshit coming from the communist leftist media, right? Like, oh, he dropped those bombs, but they didn't do nothing, man. It was totally ineffective. Oh yeah, the most deadliest, most powerful, most well-funded military in the fucking world definitely did not accomplish their mission. Go fuck yourself. You're full of shit.
CNN CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news.
The nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed. Both the Times and CNN are getting slammed by the public. Just piped.
Let's get to CNN is absolutely seething. And look, can we just all agree on one thing? And this is also why we talked about those on the Republican, whatever, the dissident right side, who were crapping all over yesterday. Hey, look, we have the most secure border we have ever had in our lifetime, potentially ever. Deportations are up. You can say not.
Yeah, this is all true. On a domestic level, I am very pleased with Trump for the most part. But, man, this is the last thing I expected from him, is to take the bait from fucking Netanyahu and to go out and drop bombs on fucking Iran. This is not at all, what I wanted to see happen. And now, the State Department is all like, well, they were this close to getting a nuclear bomb. They're right there. DOD says the same thing. I still have yet to see the evidence. Trump came out that night and addressed the public, and I expected him to present some convincing case as to why that was necessary, why tensions have risen to the level that warrants our involvement. We haven't seen it yet. So until I see that, I cannot abide this fucking aggression. There had to be some reason, and I'm not entirely convinced that it wasn't purely fucking political. Because not even 4 months ago, Tulsi Gabbard's testifying in front of Congress. We don't think Iran is actually building nuclear weapons. What changed? I want to see what changed. We haven't seen it yet.
High enough, but they are up. Inflation is under control. GDP growth is going really well. All job metrics, employment metrics that we have available to us seem to be going pretty well right now at this point in time. Tariffs seem to have leveled the playing field quite a bit. Certainly haven't had the cataclysmic results that people said that they would, and they are.
Yeah, no, the tariffs have been fantastic. We had some guy over here on Discord the other day saying that, oh, the tariffs never happened, man. It's because it didn't happen. That's bullshit. They did happen. They are happening. Rude Mud Crab was just complaining. Why are you guys tariffing Australia? What the hell? And I tried to break down some reasoning as to why that might be the case. One of the things that perks my interest about that is the fact that 35% of all imports into Australia come from China. Now, we can bring that number down a little bit. I'm not saying that America has to be the biggest import into Australia, but if we can knock China down a few notches, America and Trump are probably going to be more, open-minded to the idea of giving Australia some exemptions on that tariff. And again, that tariff wasn't directed at Australia. It's at everything the United States is importing. And it's designed to bring people to the table and say, look, you want exemptions? You're going to have to work with us a little bit. And that continues to happen with places like Mexico, Canada, China. And that's why old dude in my Discord was all like, oh, no, it's not happening. No, it is happening. And it's bringing people to the table, and then they get negotiated down. And tariffs aren't nearly as bad as he made it out to be.
Having a net positive effect. And we just took out what the world has unilaterally agreed upon was the biggest nuclear potential threat of this century without killing anybody. Yesterday was a good day for America. You can't celebrate the...
Pete X has said that we informed them after the strike occurred. So if there was anybody in those facilities at the time that we struck, they are probably dead. And their remains are unrecoverable. But we'll see what the Iranian state media says about that. They'll come out and it'll be, 500 families of women and children were, sheltering in the nuclear weapons manufacturing facility at the time. Some shit like that, I'm sure.
Wins, and if we can't unify and find common ground on that, it's about, this is where I am at this point in my life. It's about what's best for America. When people talk about MAGA, isn't it about what's best for America? Well, isn't a secure border, deportations, better handling of inflation, employment, and taking out nuclear capabilities, and at least a ceasefire, which, by the way, you guys may not realize, there are going to be rockets launched. It's just pick the month. In any given month, they're going one direction between Israel and Iran. We have some hope now. How can anyone be upset about that? Well, the CNN is pretty clear because it seems that they are actively rooting against the United States of America, which I certainly hope we don't see on the right. It's time for Media Malpractice. All right, all references available as we do every day. Link in the description so you can peruse them yourself. So yesterday, only hours after the Israel-Iran ceasefire, CNN dropped this bombshell report, and we'll explain the truth after.
3 sources tell CNN that according to an early U.S. intelligence assessment,
Python
the U.S. military strikes on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities last weekend did not destroy the core components of the country's nuclear program.
Based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months.
Yeah, I love that all that's according to one source on one syndicated fucking AP article, and everybody else is parroting the same damn story. It's fucking hilarious.
Meaning what, like 48 months?
Yeah, exactly.
6 months? How many months?
72 months.
Like, how many Leprechaun sequels will take place, be released during those months? Would you say he
Back
goes
to the moon.
Yeah, he goes back to the hood and or moon, because if that happens, that's like years.
He'll go to the moon before Iran does, for sure.
Leprechaun goes to Tehran.
The Leprechaun actually went to space. Like, no one checked the shuttle. All right. so
any mythical?
I never watched those stupid movies.
Sorry about that. I'm sure it was a real break for him.
What's up with this pot of gold?
I guess I'll allow it.
So a few key facts here. They're saying, they're only set back months. That's trying to strip Donald Trump of the win. We'll get to a bunch of reasons this is verifiably untrue. But here's the key fact number one. Just last week, CNN told us that Iran's nuclear program, which now is only set back a couple of months, wasn't even really a thing, wasn't a threat. It wasn't a thing.
There is new CNN reporting indicate there are doubts in the intelligence community about how close Iran actually is to getting a weapon. CNN's Zach Cohen has this reporting. He's with us.
Wow. That was earlier this month. That was fucking 10 days ago.
Now, what are you learning, Zach?
Were they months away?
Yeah, John, there appears to be some daylight between the U.S. intelligence community and Israel, and I guess now Donald Trump, on this question of how close Iran is to obtaining a nuclear weapon. And specifically, sources telling me and our colleague Katie Bo-Lillis that the intelligence community assessed before the most recent Israeli strikes that Iran was years away, as much as 3 years away, from not only obtaining a nuclear weapon, but developing the system meant to deliver it at a target of its choosing. And that does really run counter to the more urgent and dire timeline that Israel and Donald Trump
let him cook it up.
Yeah. By the way, Zachary Cohen has lifeless eyes like a doll's eye. Doesn't look human.
What is that, Xanax?
Here's another key fact.
Or he's freaking having a stroke. Who knows? But this is what I'm saying. You know, a couple of months back, you had Tulsi Gabbard out there saying it's not happening. I want to know what changed. We haven't seen that yet. I'm all for Trump on the domestic stuff, man. I really am. Securing the border, maintaining the economy, all that's been fucking fantastic. But one of the things I voted for was no new wars. We did get the immediate ceasefire. I was happy to see that. But I'm not sure if that includes, you know, an ending of hostilities between Iran and the United States, though. Trump's probably like, you can fucking send some mosquitoes at us if you want. We'll swat them out of the sky before they land. Here's exactly what happened in Qatar when they attacked the Air Force base there. But
I guess we'll call it key fact number 2. The IAEA, it's always hard to say. It's just vowels. Get a better acronym. The IAEA made it really clear that the damage to the sites there in Iran is massive. This is what this said. Given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred. And today, the White House released this statement from the Israel Atomic Energy Commission. I know I'm not only giving you the Israel Atomic Energy Commission, so don't say biased. It's not the only reference, to be clear, but they said, we assessed that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, combined with Israeli strikes on other elements of Iran's military nuclear program, had to try and wedge their own wins in there, has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons by many years. The achievement can continue indefinitely if Iran does not get access to nuclear material. So they're now saying it's only been set back months, so Trump actually didn't do that much. Yeah, but you guys said that they weren't even close to it. They were years away, so none of this makes sense as far as your own math. All of the third-party agencies, and some who might be biased are saying, yeah, this has been a scale of damage that is massive, that honestly we probably couldn't have predicted to be this effective. And here's another fun fact. The person behind this report, Natasha Bertrand, she's the same one who wrote that Politico article about the Hunter laptop story being Russian disinformation.
Go figure. Go figure. Bought and paid for fucking propagandists. Wouldn't you know it? Every single fucking time. What happened to journalism in this country? I swear, man. It's been seized.
X and YouTube and Google used as the reason for banning that story during a critical election year. So it's the same broad who knowingly lied about that. Yeah. She is the source for, actually, Iran's fine.
It's fine.
Actually, they wanted you to hit their side.
Now, you know, as an airman, a former airman myself, listening to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs describe the mission and the amount of munitions that were dropped on Fordo and at least one other target, is no doubt in my mind. The devastation was complete and absolute in its effectiveness. Right? There's no doubt. All of this is just propagandist fucking horseshit coming out of the left because they don't want to give Trump a win. And anything he does, they have to come out and say, I don't want man bad. Which, you know, they could be talking about his campaign promises and not holding up his fucking word to his constituents about not starting any new wars. But then they'd have to admit that that ceasefire did come pretty quick. Right? Even if it was a little shaky at first.
Because that's what they wanted. So thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. By the way, we included the Israel part because Israel, if they wanted to keep us involved, because, you know, Israel's kind of determining what the United States does, and Donald Trump bows down to Netanyahu, as we heard from so many other people, they would say, oh, you missed. Maybe we should go hit it again. Right. They would want us to continually stay involved. And even they said, yeah, like, the job looks like it's kind of done.
What a good.
Yeah. We just do it.
Thanks. All right.
Oh, come on.
Key fact number 3 here. This assessment, along with them being completely inconsistent, saying that Iran was not really a threat, and now saying actually they're still going to be a threat, they're only a few months behind. And the person who leaked this, of course, has been behind many fraudulent stories, most notably the Hunter Biden laptop.
She didn't leak it. She received the leak.
So she received the leak, and she was the source of it. Just to be clear, because we don't want to get sued. So along with all of those things,
the source. The writer.
This assessment and this whole thing regarding Iran may have been illegally leaked to CNN. And Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth actually explained the extent of the damage, why we know that's the extent of the damage, and clarified that a criminal investigation regarding this illegal leak may be underway. And by may, I mean definitely.
Well, that's the thing. Any sort of classified information that gets leaked to the press is inherently illegal. It's something that, you know, we don't seem to want to fucking talk about anymore. Especially when we look at these sources that are bringing out, you know, dirt on the administration that we don't particularly like, right?
Pete, do you have something to say about that? Well, Mr. President, when you talk to the people who built the bombs, understand what those bombs can do, and deliver those bombs, they landed precisely
Tell my daddy
where
what
they were supposed
happened.
to. It was a flawless mission.
Flawless.
Right down where we knew they needed to enter. And given the 30,000 pounds of explosives and capability of those munitions, it was devastation underneath Fordo. And the amount of munitions, 6 per location, any assessment that tells you it was something otherwise is speculating with other motives. And we know that because when you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report. It was preliminary.
Looks at the camera.
That face.
Confidence.
Funny.
All right, so this is you make assessments based on what you know.
They don't. It said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated.
Is there a leak investigation?
Is
there a leak investigation?
Of course, we're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments, and CNN and others are trying to spin it to make the president look bad when this was an overwhelming success.
Honestly, that's the first time I've seen someone answer so perfectly that President Trump himself acted as nothing more than a hype man.
Flawless, right?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, what's flawless?
Oh, shit! Get up here! Oh, damn! Snap! Flawless victory.
That's my guy, Pete.
Right?
That's my boy. Put it there, put it there.
Top secrets, by the way. That's a real big problem for that to be leaked.
I know we act like that's not a thing. I want full transparency as it relates to social programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, but I also understand that covert missions sometimes need to be covert. So President Trump,
charge a president
unsurprisingly,
for it.
yeah, he was not happy with the report. He wrote this on Truth.
Fake news CNN, together with the failing New York Times, they're failing, have teamed up in an attempt to demean one of the most successful military strikes in history. The nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed. Both the Times and CNN are getting slammed by the public.
I keep getting. I'll read this and I'll move the C up into the both. The nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed. Biatch. That's the fucking reality of the situation. Like I said, given exactly what Pete Hex has said, given the nature and the of the explosives and the number that were dropped, there's no doubt in anyone's mind who understands bunker busters that everything under that mountain is dead now. Everything. The cavern is probably 3 times bigger than it was when they built the fucking thing. And it's all filled with rubble. It's gone. Whatever was under that mountain is gone. There's no question in anybody's mind who understands this shit. Fucking, it drives me crazy that Democrats will constantly fucking gaslight and try to spin shit in a way that favors their bullshit, fantastical narrative. But they can't let the orange man have a win, dude. They just can't do it. Anything he does is fucking terrible. I think it was one of the smartest moves on his part was to go out and personally address unions and talk to union members about shit, because that definitely shifted a lot of people in his fucking favor. Of course, you got this fucking clown coming out again with articles of impeachment for like the 15th time. He fails every time. Al Green desperately wants to be the guy who impeaches Donald Trump. And that's going to be his fucking legacy. Apparently. At least he thinks it is. But I think this one's actually about AOC being a dumb fucking broad and getting roasted by Trump on social media, which is hilarious. But
fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
That was epic,
hey guys,
though.
Welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely.
I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever heard a president use that level of language before. This is hilarious. Where's Tim?
Focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know what I'd suggest for the Democrats? I'd suggest to just kind of lay low. You know, and we got people like Bill Maher suggesting that he might vote Republican.
I never was a Democrat to begin with. I always caucused with the Democrats, and I generally vote for them. I think always vote for them, but I always look at it and no, I'm going to actually make up my mind. They just always are less scary and insane than the Republicans. But I wait for the day when it evens out. We're approaching that because they have gotten crazier.
When that's the current state of your party, yeah, maybe it's time to take a back seat, maybe observe a little bit, think, reformulate your strategy. But no, the Democrats don't want to engage in any of that logical behavior. They just want to keep doubling down on all the dumbing down, but somebody needs to tell them that mindless resistance won't work when we're not dealing with first-term President Trump, we're dealing with Trump version 2.0.
Well, the Tim Hill said a public sector union is essentially holding the taxpayer hostage for their demands to be met, like the ATC union during the Reagan years. They literally tried to go on strike and shut down air traffic in the United States, but Reagan just fired them. That's the danger of public sector unions, especially for something so important as ATC. I 100% agree, man. And good on Reagan for having the spine to actually come down on that. That's not one that I had actually come across. When in my, I did a little bit of research. We went over that in the first hour, but yeah, that's a good one. I think I'm gonna add that to my list here. Actually, for sure.
They keep coming for him, this time Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And Donald Trump is just cutting through the BS and just hitting back hard like you can't imagine. He's just immune to the fake narrative grifting at this point. But people like AOC clearly haven't yet gotten the message. They're still trying 2016 tactics in 2025, expecting the same damn results. It's foolishness, I tell you. Let's have a conversation about what's going on, the state of the parties, just a general outlook. We got got some stuff to get into. So let's roll the tape.
Yeah, Tim Hill says, I just happen to remember the ATC thing from years ago. Sure, man. Like I say, that's helpful. That's not one I had come across yet. But mainly the argument focuses on modern America. So I'm specifically focusing on contemporary America, how established labor laws and established labor practices have, smoothed out the relationship between manufacturers and workers quite a bit. My argument also is that would have come about as a result of legislation if it hadn't been for unions. Unions just happened to fulfill that role at the time. It was a volatile time for America, and it's kind of irrelevant to the state of unions today. Today, they serve mainly as a lobbying arm of the Communist and Democrat socialist parties of America in order to push through progressive policies and communistic policies, in favor of kickbacks, tax breaks, contributions from Democrat political action committees. So it's all a big, Oros, the snake eating itself, the trading of money between hands within the communist movement in America. I think unions definitely participate in that. And I have evidence of them, supporting different progressive shit in the past, and how even people who support unions recognize that that's one of the most important things about them is their ability to lobby and influence legislation in a progressive and leftist way. So I think one of the greatest travesties in modern America is states that are not right to work states, where if a union exists in a workplace, you're forced to participate in it and contribute to this lobbying system that probably, at least half the time and half the cases of all workers does not represent your political ideology or your political standpoint. And yet you're forced to pay into this if you want to work in this workplace. And a lot of times these unions own entire industries all across states like that. So you don't have a choice. It doesn't matter if you go to company A or company B, they're both union. So your skill set is locked up in this industry that will absolutely force you to participate in this lobbying arm, whether you want to or not, because of the state that you live in. You have to move states, which is ridiculous. It shouldn't even be allowed. It shouldn't even be legal. And we broached a little bit of the subject, me and Bumpkin, but I wanted to save most of it for the debate. But he brought up the idea that unions should be more sponsored by the state and more publicized, and that would somehow benefit workers better. And I'm like, that's insane. So now you're taking tax dollars out of the federal coffers from every taxpayer in the country in order to fuel these propaganda machines that, again, simply serve as lobbying arms of the Democrat Party in contemporary America. So it's like the mafia. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because the mafia has close ties to the union historically, especially in New York with the port and whatnot. That's a big one where, the mob was deeply involved and unions in the port and strong arming the unions to do what they wanted to see happen. And again, using that to influence legislation so that, prohibition would be ended and, or prohibition would continue, rather, is what the fucking mob wanted, because they were making bank selling alcohol on the underground market. So, yeah.
All right, folks, so Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came out recently with a real creative idea, something really out there that we've never heard before. And no, it's not cow farts or tackling cow farts. No, it's a whole lot more creative and unique than that. Trust me, we've never seen this kind of tech. She's hitting us with yet again the impeachment grift. Donald Trump must be impeached for doing what literally the whole world has been waiting to see, completely neutering the Iranian regime. Yeah, what an absolute farce. Here we go again, impeachment. I mean, you'd think after 3 impeachment circuses, 2 that actually made it to vote then failed, and the other that just completely combusted into flame almost instantaneously, the whole Russia narrative, you would think they'd be done with the embarrassment, but no, here we go again. And President Trump hit back with the perfect response. Stupid AOC Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. Yeah, the reason for her rantings is all the victories that the USA has had under the Trump administration. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of our country being successful again. When we examine her test scores, we will find out that she is not qualified for office, but nevertheless, far more qualified than Crockett, who is seriously a low IQ individual, or Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country, yet the failed country that she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty and is rated one of the worst in the world, if it's even rated at all. How dare the mouse tell us how to run the United States of America? We're just now coming back from the radical left experiment with Sleepy Joe, Kamala, and the autopen in charge. What a disaster it was. AOC should be forced to take the cognitive test that I just completed at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of my physical. As the doctor in charge said, President Trump aced it, meaning I got every answer right. Instead of her constant complaining, Alexandria should go back home to Queens, where I was also brought up, and straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden streets in the district that she, quote, represents, and which she never goes to anymore. She better start worrying about her own primary before she thinks about beating our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, whose career is definitely on very thin ice. She and her Democrat friends have just hit the lowest poll numbers in congressional history, so go ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my day.
This fucking guy. This is hilarious. I love it. I love it. How long has it been since we had a president that would just fucking shoot from the hip like this, man? It is awesome. Saying exactly what's on the tip of the tongue of his constituents, if you ask me. I mean, what a joke AOC and Jasmine Crockett have turned out to be. Time and time again, L after L after L. And it just doesn't sink in. The Democrats are still pushing these people as some kind of vigilant and stalwart fucking leaders of their party. It's insane. You know, AOC, Cory Booker, there's at least half a dozen Democrat representatives and senators that are, well, I think just representatives, more than half a dozen Democrat representatives who are active members of the Democrats Socialist Party of America. They're actual fucking communists. All of the squad, AOC included, Ilhan Omar, fucking Jasmine Crockett, Cory Booker, all of these people who have been disruptors and leading the Democrats around by the nose are all DSA. Every damned one of them. And the people who aren't are fucking Chuck Schumer and, you know, Nancy Pelosi, the fucking old guard of the Democrats who conveniently opened the door and laid out the red carpet for the fucking socialists to come in and take over the party. And this is why Democrats have absolutely lost their fucking minds since Trump took office. It's because the leadership laid down the gauntlet for the fucking socialists.
Holy frickin' crap. I mean, my tongue is sizzling from the frickin' heat. He absolutely obliterated her and all of her radical crony friends, and it's not even close. Totally brutal, but honestly called for and meets the moment. You know, really? Impeachment again? Another frickin' circus? That's
it would be a fucking joke.
To offer the American people?
It was the last two times around.
Rise because we are at the intersection of democracy and autocracy.
This fucking guy, sir.
37 has been filed because I believe that the President of the United States has committed an impeachable act. H-Res 57 addresses abuse of presidential powers by disregarding the separation of powers, devolving American democracy into an authoritarian government, usurping congressional power to declare war. I do this because if I do not, this authoritarian president that we currently have will continue to assume power. He has already instigated an assault on the citadel of democracy, the capital of the United States of America. This authoritarian president will not only devolve the country into authoritarianism, I believe he is a would-be dictator who would become a dictator. I believe that the hour of decision is upon us, and we all have to decide, are we going to go down and choose the path of democracy, or we allow ourselves to choose the low road of autocracy?
Representative Green, once again, just repeating the same old lines. Impeachment, here we go. You know, it's just a joke at this point. And is there any other way to engage with this absolute farce other than complete ridicule? I don't think so. I think this is the appropriate response. And again, free consultation for the Democrats who just refuse to frickin' listen to any common sense or any opinion out of their deluded frickin' bubble. This is why no one takes you seriously anymore. You know, we got a president tackling serious issues, government waste being one one of them, and their response was, screw audits, screw transparency, we want impeachment. And now we have the president tackling very complex foreign policy issues, and the literal first reaction is once again impeachment. It's a joke, and clearly
it's he's doing something we don't like. Like I say, Al Green has made this proposition 15 fucking times. He's absolutely hell bent on being the guy who makes the proposition this time around. Whenever the Democrats can actually get Republicans to agree to the idea of a fucking impeachment. You know, as much as Trump and Massey disagree, as much as Trump and Paul disagree, I don't think they would support impeachment any more than any other fucking Republican would. Especially if it's on unfounded bullshit grounds. Like, Al Green didn't even get to the meat of what he was talking about. He just made a bunch of shit up that sounded good to justify his presence in the fucking pulpit. But at the end of the day, he's full of shit. They don't have a ground I'd like to stand on when they try to say that, what Trump is doing is unconstitutional. No, it's not. Not in any case. Not in sending the National Guard to LA, not in attacking Iran, not in, levying tariffs. That's purely the purview of the executive branch. So all of the shit is insane.
it's not working. Look at the shift over here. We got RMG Research, who in their previous poll on generic ballot data, they had Democrats at a +2, and now that's totally flipped to a Republican +8. And that's not even getting into the Democrats' approval rating, which again is sitting at an abysmal 20%. The Democrats are in a serious wake-up call moment, and yet the response is calling for impeachment and
that's a fucking 10% shift. And now they're out here calling for impeachment yet again. Making the same mistakes all over again. In one ear and out the other with these people, I'm telling you. It's because, again, it all goes back to the foundations of communism and communistic regime change, which is the point of the revolution is the revolution. This is why communists end up putting people up against the wall. It's because people begin to see through their fucking shit and saying, wait a minute, this isn't good for us. This is bad for us. Up against the wall. Off to the gulag. Erase you from fucking photographs you never existed, because we can't have people questioning the party. You can't levy any opposition to what we say. That's why Democrats constantly vote in lockstep and walk in lockstep in all things. It's because the DSA are absolutely demanding adherence to their radical fucking rhetoric over trans shit and queer shit and all of that. The wokeism. And people who don't immediately get brigaded. Immediately, right? Like Eric Adams, for instance, saying, well, you know, maybe this immigration is just not so good. This is really going to bankrupt our city. It's not going well. Immediately, the Democrats turn on him, called him an Uncle Tom this and a traitor that, simply because he's questioning the narrative on bringing in countless illegal aliens into our country. So,
sending Jasmine Crockett to hit us with her ghetto.
Same thing happened with Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. You know, you take one step out of line and Democrats are all over your ass, trying to absolutely ruin your life and destroy your career.
You know, come on, it's just not serious. It's a TikTok clown socialist takeover. I mean, quite literally, considering these characters are now shilling for this Zohran Mamdani or whatever his name is out in New York.
Supporting Zohran, and we all support Zohran because supporting Zohran is a vote for a New York for all of us.
Which is bullshit. The dude is a consummate fucking communist. The literal goddamn socialist out here preaching actual communism. He's going to ruin New York. You know, part of me wants to see it happen. Just to rub it in these idiots' fucking faces. This is what you asked for, is a third world fucking country on the eastern seaboard of the United States. That's what's going to fucking happen.
New Yorkers are looking for is a mayor who will actually fight for them and to have the endorsements of two.
This guy released a campaign ad in fucking Farsi, for crying out loud. But he's gonna care about New Yorkers first? My fucking ass. Gives two shits. This motherfucker is gonna fuel a Muslim takeover in New York, just like what we saw in London.
Who have taken on those same corrupt insider politics, those same Donald Trump supporting billionaires, the same politics that got us this affordability crisis. It is a testament to what this campaign is building.
Zohran #1 for a New York City that can be affordable to all of us.
You know, this mayoral candidate in New York City, whose main campaign pledge is bringing Soviet-style, state-controlled, price-controlled groceries.
I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not...
How are you going to do that? Raise their taxes? Increase the cost of business licenses? How do you mean to redirect funds?
It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect
city funds.
City funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Nothing says this
Yeah, that's it right there. That's it right there. They're going to force the cost of real estate up, and they're going to force property taxes up. And that's going to somehow benefit fucking people to stand in a bread line to buy generic trash that doesn't meet the quality standard, and yada, yada, yada on down the line. Like, how do these people expect, I mean, how do you expect a government bureaucracy to compete with, enterprises that have specialized in this industry for decades, like Aldi or Kroger, in any meaningful way that's actually going to benefit the people on the fucking ground? It's not. You're either going to be selling them trash, or you're just going to make everything more expensive, including your little publicly funded breadline stores.
Or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Nothing says this Democrat Party gets it and is coming back to the real world, like doubling down on literal communism. Yeah, very obviously they don't get it. They're not taking the hints. Seems they maybe don't have the ability to read social cues, and so it's just a complete double down of the old failed policies and failed attack angles, more performative bullcrap and hashtag resistance, and very little substance. And I think President Trump's Truth Social post in response to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez basically sums up, I think, how most people are feeling. Piss off with yet again another friggin' impeachment hoax. This president is focused on getting business done and not engaging in the Democrats' dirty business. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, man. I'm in church for that, but it's just, I still don't understand why people advocate for this crap. You know what I mean? Like, haven't we seen it happen enough times where such policies and ideology absolutely ruins a culture and a civilization, or a society, I guess, not a civilization, but you can't get it through their heads. It doesn't matter. Like I say, the point of the revolution is the revolution. We have to have something to be upset about. And it gets my emotional heartstrings going when I think about free food for homeless people. That's great. That's not even what he's proposing. Like I said, any kind of bureaucratic injection into the market like that is only going to raise costs for everything across the board, including these publicly funded breadline stores. What you're going to have is that the only place that has reasonable prices are the publicly funded breadline stores, and they're going to have trash fucking products, and they're going to be selling those products for the same price that premium products go for in regular enterprise grocery stores in other cities and other parts of the state and other states where that policy doesn't fucking exist. That is going to be the end result of that. So you don't think there's a profit motive when it comes to bureaucracies? You're an idiot. Of course there is. One of the things you learn when you work for the government, especially the federal government, is that every year your budget gets recalculated. So every fiscal year, come end of the fiscal year, every single government department in the federal government and in the state governments is racing to spend as much money as possible so that their budget gets increased for the next year. If you don't spend every single ounce of your budget, it gets decreased. That ends up being what happens. There's your profit margin for whatever industry you're talking about that you want to inject a bureaucracy into. And that's exactly what's going to happen to these stupid grocery stores. You're going to end up paying premium prices for shitty quality products, and the stores that actually have the good stuff are going to charge you twice as much because they have to pay twice as much in property taxes and sales tax and everything else. So, yeah, there's that too, Tim Hill. A state-run supermarket makes stealing nice and easy. So it certainly doesn't contribute to the stability of society in any meaningful way either. Because, supposedly, since it's taxpayer money stocking the shelves, yeah, they're not going to prosecute or hunt down people who come in and just grab everything they want off the shelf and run out of the store. Which, let's be honest, far and away, they're not doing that in most cities as it stands. But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and close it out there. We did do the debate prep early on, but the debate's not for another several hours. So come back around 1 a.m. I'll be live again. We'll be streaming the debate. Jess White is hosting the debate. So if you haven't heard of her or seen her channel yet, definitely check her out. No, it's not that one. Oh, I can find it pretty easily. Oh, there she is. Okay. Yeah. Y'all go out and check out Jess White. Subscribe and send some love her way. She will be the host for tonight's show. Again, that's at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's my time. But in the meantime, I suggest we all head out to Lower Class. Give him a ghetto raid. He's a good buddy, friend of the channel. And he's got Corey Barton on there. Corey Barton's good times too. So y'all head over, give Jess White a like and a subscription, and let's ghetto raid over to Lower Class. And I will see you all here later on tonight around 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, many cheers, everybody. Thank you all for hanging out. I do appreciate you coming to the stream. So, good to see you, Rome. Sorry, you come in so right at the end, but raiding out to Lower Class. Let's go see Lower Class, and give him our biggest middle finger for government-funded eugenics. Because apparently that's over now. We'll see what happens, but yeah, y'all raid Lower Class, and I'll see you on the next one. All right. (1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time). Be back here. I mean it. I want to see all y'all back here in the chat.